So welcome. I'm going to just name everybody's name so Polly knows who's here. We've got Jean-Vivi, we've got Yarrow, we've got Kelly B, we've got Barbara, we've got Allie, we've got Roxanne, we've got Kelly Ruby, we've got Hilda is coming on. Yep. Hello, Hilda. Welcome, Hilda. So if you guys can go ahead and rename yourself, Jean-Vivi, if you can keep putting that in the chat so that people can rename themselves, we will get this show on the road. So the first thing I just want to say is thank you, Polly, for being with us.
Happy.
It's just an honor and a privilege to have you here. And we're still technically in gates, but we're kind of starting to go into channels. And this time is really a time this is the working the process kind of time. So conversations about concepts, absolutely, understandings, absolutely, and working our triggers, really seeing if we can move the needle with ourselves and our adaptive behaviors and our shift our world. Really, this is the shift, the shift, the 90 minutes of shift here. That's the intention and the desire. So because we are in gate, the sun is transiting gate 19 and the earth is transiting gate 33, we thought we'd just take a moment. I know some of you did this yesterday in the advanced training, but just take a moment to tap into those two gates. So if you have the gate 19 oil or the gate 33 oil, you can grab those. Welcome, Deborah. And
Can you name the gates for me?
Yeah, gate 19 is coming off the root going to the emotional solar plexus. It's a tribal energy. It's the gate of wanting and sensitivity, and I'll talk about that. I'll do a little meditation on that. And gate 33 is coming off the throat. It's on the right side. It's collective sensing. It's going towards the identity center, and it's called retreat or privacy. So we've got these two gates that are about tapping into ourselves and our own sense of what is what's going on with us, and learning about that and sharing that wisdom when the time is right. So let's just go ahead and take that gate 19, maybe bring it to your heart for a moment first. And I don't know, Barbara, which oils did you do yesterday? 19. Okay, so some of you have already done this. So we'll just tap into this. Polly hasn't done it, so we'll tap her into this. So just take the oil to your heart. Just hold this, ask for the devas of this plant medicine to be with us. And then just take a moment and inhale that gate 19. Just allowing yourself to take in this frequency. This is a gate that longs for intimacy. On the low side, it can seem needy. It's deeply sensitive, has a deep connection with animals. It's tribal. Relationships are very important. It's a gate that we say in human design should never be criticized. And this is a gate that is fuel for our social needs. We're looking to see, looking around at our tribe to see who has what, who needs what. Am I getting my needs met, or other people getting their needs met? So just taking a moment and being aware of our sensitivity, honoring our sensitivity. Just checking in to see, are we on the high side of this? Are we on the high side? We could say from Polly's world, we are on our own behalf if we're on the high side of this, and trusting that our needs will support everybody else's needs. If we're on the low side of it, we're grabbing, trying to get our needs met in transactional ways. We're trying to fill a hole that can't be filled. one of the quotes Polly says quite often is, you can't get enough of what you don't need. So we're trying to grab something that is actually not the thing that is going to give us the peace or the happiness or the security that we're looking for. We're looking for a thing as a replacement for that whole, when actually we ourselves are our consciousness, our true nature is what fundamentally what we all are looking for and need. So just taking one more moment and just welcoming the whole picture, not making yourself wrong if you're needy or if you're not tapped into this or you're not on the high side. Just really letting yourself see the whole picture, step back and see the whole display of what do I need? How do I fulfill my needs? What does the world need? How do I fulfill other people's needs? Just watching the whole display of it. And just taking a moment to recognize that you are the ultimate yummy object. You are the ultimate. Your presence, your true nature is what you are actually after. And just taking a breath and letting that go. And we're turning to gate 33. And again, just bring that to your heart and then go ahead and smell the gate 33. This is collective sensing. This is privacy, retreat. Maybe you have this in your chart, maybe you don't. This is a needing a pause, having an experience. That collective sensing is about experiencing life and then pausing and taking time to look and reflect. In a way, it's like taking time to do the 6 steps, or it's really taking time to learn the pet lessons from the past so you can move forward at another level and that you can share what you've learned to humanity. So this is a wisdom gate. It's a powerful gate for moving forward in life by looking to the past. On the low side, we can get stuck in the past stories and spin. We can get addicted to our past and not use it, not see the wisdom that takes us forward. We can get caught in a conclusion, not see that we're living out of conclusion. So if we pause and we look and we see, oh my gosh, I made that conclusion when I was 3 years old and it's not true anymore. Then we can move, we can shift, we can go forward.
What's the name of it?
It's called retreat or privacy. Yeah. So letting that go and just sitting here in this just imagining for a moment the entire planet is being doused with this neutrino stream of this sensitivity, this wanting, this retreat energy. So this is a perfect time for us to come together and see where are we getting triggered with our needs and our sensitivity, and how can we take a look again, look more deeply and inquire and see how we can move forward. So taking a breath, and when you're ready, just opening your eyes. And because we always like to have everybody have a voice, let's just go around and say a word or a sentence about where you are right now, whatever wants to be spoken into this field. It could be anything, could be a statement, a question, a state of being. Who would like to start? Is it your turn? Okay, Kelly, Ruby, and then Roxanne.
You mean me, Robin?
Kelly B.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I was just feeling so peaceful and feeling the energies of everybody here collectively was just so, the word that comes is expansive. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Roxanne.
Yeah, as soon as I inhaled gate 33, this big smile came on my face. And so that's my word right now, smile. I've got this inner smile and the outer smile to reflect it. Yeah.
That's so great.
Thank you, Roxanne. Who's next? Yeah, Hilda.
Really happy it's Friday evening after a full week, and I was triggered during this week, so and it calmed down, so it's nice.
Thank you, Hilda. Who's next? Kelly, Ruby, did you raise your hand or yeah, okay. You're muted. She knows. How do I unmute on my phone? Okay.
Okay, I
There's
think
no-
I got it. Um, I'm doing good. Busy week like everybody else, you know, the meditation with the little thoughts that we want to do some good questions to do.
Kelly, I can't, it's a garbled.
Oh, sorry.
There. we got you.
Doing good. Have some, I think, some good questions for gate 19, so good thoughts. Now I'll see if I can mute myself.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, who's next? Is it your turn? Barbara.
Thank you. My reflection on 13 is it's up to me to claim my retreat time. And I need to do that because when I'm in the space of presence and awareness, I know that all my needs are already met.
Yes. Yeah. Right? Wow. Thank you, Barbara. Hey, who's next? Yeah, Deborah and then Yarrow.
This week, perhaps partly with 19, I have been feeling kind of an increase in anxiety. And it's certainly calmed being here, but there's still a bit of that running. So.
Thank you, Deborah. Yarrow.
Well, the word that comes is I feel churning. And we had this massive storm last night in Maui and roads were closed and I just feel it in my body, kind of like, whoa. And then I see Polly and Robin sitting there. So in that picture behind Polly, and it brings me to the present. The churning is calming.
Yeah, it's interesting. My new apartment here is like a little bunker. So the weather's going on all around, the rain and the wind, and it doesn't, I don't experience very much of it at all because of my lower level bunker apartment.
Thank you. Okay, who's next? Yeah, Allie.
I feel like a surrender to releasing and relaxing in different ways of permission and what that looks like for healing.
Thank you, Allie. Hey, yeah, Barry.
I feel like I'm on a teeter-totter, whatever that is, between the high and low side of this contemplation and reflection time, and trying not to isolate, trying to be in that place where I'm just reflecting on the past and finding the wisdom in it without wanting to run from it. That's a pretty tricky time for me with a parent, two parents, heading home. So thanks.
Thank you, Barry. Jean Vivi.
I thought I was the only one churning. So I'm just calming down. I was just running around like a crazy person.
Jean Vivi's getting ready to take a trip to Mexico, so a lot to do before you go. Thank you, Jean Vivi. All right, we have Karina or Linda left. Linda. Oh, you're muted, yeah. You're gonna have to ask Kelly.
There
B
we go. It's hard on in the car to sort that. Hi.
So just a
Hi.
sentence or a word, check in.
So sitting in the car, feeling some relief. Just took care of something that was a lot easier than I thought, and glad to be here.
Thank you, Linda. Karina.
I'm happy to be here, just landing. I've just jumped out of my writing class. There's a bit of an overlap, so I always feel I'm a little bit sort of, yeah. So I've been listening to you all and just slowing down. And my body is asking me to slow down. I feel like I have a sore throat and a bit of a cold coming. So yeah, just going to take it easy tonight.
Thank you, Karina. Yeah, for me, I think I'm just starting to sit back a little bit. You know, I had a lot going on this morning, racing to get here, having to go over piles of gravel, blocked roads to get here. Wasn't sure if I was gonna make it with all the storm craziness, but the birds are singing, there's sunshine coming through, and I'm just happy to be here with you all. Miss Polly, anything you want to say?
I love is it 33 off the throat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the combination there of moving into privacy, but also a retreat, and also something I think you said, or you explained to me about it, that it has to do often with the past.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I was thinking about being at the School for the Work with Byron Katie, and how we would take something that had been very impacting that happened to us, and we'd write page after page, always every page condensing it to its essence, getting down to what actually it was. And how for me, my son's suicide was the most impacting event at that point. This was many years ago. And how I started off with this voluminous experience of mine and everything. And it ended up with one sentence or two, I think, that was just the reality of what is right here, right now. And so I think this gate gives us the opportunity to come into the essence of whatever we may have been attached to, or maybe still living out of, that would be called the past.
Thank you, Polly. Yeah, so we want to take advantage of this energy, and I had invited Allie to come and actually do a piece of work with Polly. You still up for that, Allie?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I'm going to pull up Allie's chart so you can all see it. Came up in Q&A, a question about how to, and I'm going to let you name it, articulate it better, but how to navigate the the world you live in with this open emotional solar plexus and feeling everybody's feelings and what to do with that, how to maybe you can articulate it a little bit better. You had a whole picture of what that is and what you're working with that.
So the more that I've been like learning about the design, especially the ESP, I noticed it stemmed from a big notice of learning the gates. And every time I was in the homework, like falling asleep, like feeling such exhaustion around any gate. Even sometimes when people talk to me, or if they're not expressing emotion, if I can sense something's wrong with someone, they're not expressing it, it's almost like I can feel it so intimately inside of me. And with all these gates, what was coming to mind was I, over the last almost 40 years, have taken all of this big emotion, whatever that looks like, and I feel like it's inside of me. So when I go to learn or to explore anything that becomes like an emotion, it's exhausting. And then on the contrast of that, I'm struggling with such strong energy in my G center, the spiritual path of self-love, and then feeling like that stems to every piece of love, and struggling with like seeing all these emotions and then struggling with love so much.
Yeah, let me share with Polly your chart so she knows what we're looking at.
Yes, thank you.
So she's got a totally open emotional solar plexus, totally open head. The root is open except for gate 60, which is that gate of limitation. And then off of her, she's got a defined, everything else is defined. She's got a defined identity center with every gate activated and 1, 2, 3 channels coming off of that identity center. And her incarnation cross is all the gates of love coming off the identity center. So huge heart presence and this open emotional solar plexus, taking in no barrier between her and everybody's feelings, but burdened by that, Allie, right? Burdened by that.
I find it could go both ways. For example, a funeral, like to feel something of life and death so intimately with people, to be uncontrollable, like it becomes uncontrollable. And then, or like at a wedding, like being able to feel love so deeply, but I'm finding, and I don't know if it's the world or the world that I'm surrounded by, there's just so much emotion, I think, that people aren't understanding how to process. That I know that when my profile 5-1 is very transpersonal, and I can sometimes feel energy, and sometimes I don't know if it's a 46 gate. There's times when I'll be having conversations, if I touch people, I can feel that transmute of energy, and people have called like, did you feel that? And it's like I can lift weight off of them from that emotional space of what's happening. And it's not something that I've been trained in Reiki or anything. It's just something that's kind of like happens around me, and it becomes, I think, as I become more aware of this, or maybe there's big shifts in my chart, it's coming to a debilitating part of my life where it's really hard to like be a human and work through all every these emotions that I don't understand where they're coming from. And to say like, oh, this isn't mine, I get it, like do the work or don't take things personally, but I feel like it's energetically, when I was falling asleep, it just feels like there's something in me ready to move, so that I can almost be like a conduit versus like this attachment of energy.
So Allie, if you were to, if we look at the 6 steps to see if we can find any entry into this dynamic that you've described, and you could name a trigger, it may be something that you just mentioned, or it may be an incident or an interaction. If we can, I think that we might be able to find an opening into how this is working in you, that we might have an identity conclusion. So is there anything that you can just use? You know the 6 steps. And so if you could just locate in that narrative a trigger, we might take a look at all that.
Like a more recent trigger?
Whichever comes up for you, whatever.
Just even right now, you know, you look at your emotional solar plexus, you look at the feelings, what's the trigger there? You don't know what to do, you don't know how to manage this. What's grabbing you? You're overwhelmed by people's emotions.
And now is a lot of anger. The trigger would be a lot of anger and almost lifelessness. Anger at like sometimes I just get really angry if I'm listening to people, like the constant complaining of things.
Mhm.
I get very bitter and angry about it. Like it's hard for me to continuously to hear.
Mhm. So we'll use that as the trigger, a feeling of being not quite, but maybe assaulted by other people's negative expression, right? I'm triggered. Second step is it's about me.
It's about me.
The feeling is, you've already described some of it, but let's get more precise. What you said, anger. Anger is typically a secondary response to an underlying feeling. So if you can look a little bit beneath the anger to see what it is that's there, it might be hurt, it might be fear, it might be anything, but anger is what you're doing to defend yourself, or what you're experiencing to defend yourself. So let's see what's underneath that anger.
The second thing that came up is just becoming resentful.
Resentful.
And I don't know if that one counts.
Yeah, it does. It counts. Yeah. So that experience of resentment, feeling resentful, just relaxing out of your mind and into the opening of early experience, using that experience of resentful to guide you into a memory, an early memory of that same experience of resentment.
Oh. A theme or something that's coming through is talking to my mom in the living room.
How old were you?
I would imagine like 6.
Yeah.
And I think I asked her what she was doing or something. Or why we couldn't do something. I don't know. We couldn't do something, and I usually was a lot of energy. But she looked at me and she's like, because of you. I can't go back to work and I can't do this. And I just remember her being so angry at me and being very resentful. And I'm sure that at that moment I told myself I would never be like her.
So your experience was being blamed? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you deeply intuited that that was not fair, I suspect, right?
I just felt her anger at me and that our financial situation was my fault because essentially I was born.
Right. Yeah, when that whole scene was going on, all those different emotions, you concluded that it meant something about you. Uh, just to just free associate, what do you believe you concluded that this meant about you? I must be,
I'm not worth it.
I must not be worth it. Yeah. Yeah. That got installed and created the distortion field that the lens through which you perceive and receive your reality, basically. So everything is colored or shaped by that conclusion. I'm not worth it. We can see some of the implications of that distortion in your experience. And I don't want to, I'm not trying to add anything. So you always correct me if I get it wrong, but I'm seeing a connection here between that conclusion and the inclination or the intuition that you have to take on everybody else's emotional reaction, or you're subject to a lot. The experience of I'm not worth it makes you liable for whatever's going on with other people, right? Like your mother in the creating incident that you just described. So that's what, if that's what got installed, it makes it makes things make sense to us in terms of this availability for taking on the emotional. It sort of puts you in a position that you don't have any value and you have to be of service in some way, even if it's just taking on the emotional reaction. So it's this conclusion, I'm not worth it, when it got installed, like I said, it's created a distortion lens through which you receive and perceive reality. This was never true. It was unavoidable for that little alley, right?
Yeah.
We can see, we can intuit, or we can even make conjecture about the experience your mother was having, but that what you took on from this is what's gotten installed. And so this is where we shine the light. Thank God that was never true, that you're not worth it. You're everything. You're the space in which reality arises. This is where we reconfirm through, I forgive myself for ever having believed I'm not worth it. Can you move in that direction, Allie?
Yeah.
It's just a light shining on it. It's so obviously a kind of inevitable and at the same time absolutely not the truth. It just can't be. So we're shining the light of awareness. I am the awake awareness in which reality arises. I'm not worth it, or I'm not worth something, or not worth something. I am everything, right? It takes it meta to this polarity that we installed. And so this light is the forgiveness. I am the awake awareness in which all reality arises, shines light on this early incident. It shines light on the unavoidable conclusion that this little girl at 6 made when this interaction with her mother came on. And from this place, that light is like a solvent. It's like disillusion. It's like the forgiveness is the cleansing, the clearing of the error.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Please.
Because typically we would think someone with a defined will center, the issue wouldn't be about worth, right? Because we would think that would be with someone with an open will center. I'm just wondering, Allie, because the entry point is the emotional solar plexus, I'm wondering if just tweaking this a second, because for me, what I find when I get the words right, it's a key that unlocks it. I can be around it and it kind of helps, but when I get the match, the frequency match to the conclusion, it's crazy what happens. So I'm just wondering if it felt like in that moment with your mom that you were responsible for her feelings.
Yeah, my mom is a person that was told that she was a crybaby once, and she told that we were not allowed to cry. Like, there was no crying, there was no I love yous, there was no hugs, there was nothing.
More
And to
emotion.
her, I get it, like, she grew up with an abusive mom, so that was like worlds apart. But there was no I love you, there was no hugs, there was no anything.
Yeah. Well, you came in to be the love. That's your design, right? You came to be that, to give that. That's who you are. But I'm just wondering if if there was a conclusion, and just check in and see, I may be off. I'm responsible for my mom's feelings. And if that is what you're carrying out, when anybody has a feeling now, somehow it's your responsibility going back to that time with your mom. Does that fit or make sense? Or
What makes more sense to me is, how do I explain it? That I was responsible, but on the other hand, like, I wasn't allowed to express love. I wasn't allowed to express how I felt. And if I was overreacting.
right.
Or if in the way that I learned how to cope was to gauge how people would act. So I wouldn't make any waves, so I wouldn't be overreacting or be berated about something. So I guess to manipulate situations so that I could like feel something that was going on, I could just alter things and alter that path for myself, like not do what was right for myself in order to sacrifice how someone else would feel, so that I would be told that it was my fault, that I would take responsibility.
So how people feel is your fault. You're walking in the world, and what comes up for people, you're responsible for in some way, spoken or unspoken. Yeah, I'm just checking.
That's how I've taken it from when I was little, that it was my fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the lens through which you've been experiencing others. In this instance, your mother, right? And the direct implication of her expression was that it was your fault, right? So that's what got installed, right? That's like a program got installed, and that makes sense to us from your experience with the open emotional center, that everything that's coming in is your fault, right? You have to take it on. All of that was the experience, as far as we know, with this rundown, a 6-year-old, but probably prior to that. And that's what we want to shine the light on, because shining the light on it is what clears it. It's what dispels it. It's what reveals that it's simply not true. It was, again, unavoidable for that little Allie with that dynamic going on, but it was never true. And it's like that's the forgiveness. I forgive myself for ever believing that it's my responsibility, that I'm the one who has to take this on, that if it's not good in the sense, in the dynamic with your mother, it's my fault, that I'm the one that's not worth it. So all of that gets cleared in the bright light of awareness. This awareness is the opening into our true nature. This is what being awake is. It's seeing clearly instead of through a glass darkly, now face to face with reality, which is an extension of the one I am. and you are an extension of love, but it's not for you to take it on from other people. That would be the misperception in the dynamic of this early childhood wound that would have been installed for you subconsciously. Then you're seeing through that distortion lens, and everything is being measured by that conclusion. I'm not worth it, and that it's my responsibility. I mean, this is, we can feel, you have experienced and now sharing with us the insanity of that dynamic for you. It would be holding you always in the grip of emotional reaction, and it's not yours.
Yeah, so I want everybody to be thinking about yourself and your chart and your openness and what's going on for you, because what we know with the open head, we're taking everything in, but the job is to see what is mine to take, what is mine to come up with an answer for, going to our sacral, what is mine to come up for an answer for. We can see with Allie, with your open emotional solar plexus, all these emotions are coming in. You don't have any barrier to that. Here they come, right? You have a conclusion. I'm responsible for everybody's feelings. I'm responsible. I'm at fault if they're upset. It's my birth basically causes people to have bad feelings, causes people to be resentful, causes whatever. My presence, I'm extrapolating here, and correct me if I'm wrong. But again, it's like what Polly is just saying. What feelings are yours to respond to or not? Just like what thoughts are yours to respond to or not? Not from that conclusion of a 6-year-old, like everybody, this is what we do. I know we did this with Katie, like in any situation, you put your mom on there. You could, it's all the same. We do the same thing everywhere. So someone comes into your field, you're a 6-year-old girl and that's your mom.
That's right.
And you're responding the same way until we clear this and you have clarity. This is a power. These totally open centers are power portals. This one has been hijacked from you, right? It's been hijacked by this 6-year-old who feels like she's responsible for everybody's feelings. Her birth destroyed her mom's future and her capacities, activated resentment, right? So there's a cloud over this that we want to clear. We don't want to fix it at the level of the problem. We can't do that. You can't fix it with each person. It's in you to clear the cloud so that you can access your sacral and know how in the moment to respond. It's in the moment, how to respond with self-love in the moment to someone's feeling. The trigger from the 6-year-old takes you out of the present. You lose the present. You lose the capacity to see in the present. Is this landing or making sense, or?
No, it makes complete sense. And I think like when you mentioned in the utero, like I know like my mom went through a lot when I was pregnant. When she was pregnant, like she moved, and my older sister was probably 2 at that time, to a different province by herself with my dad, who was traveling a lot at the time. And when I was born, I think there was a lot of stress when she had to give up her dog. She moved, she was by herself. And then when I was born, I was colicky for 6 months. And that was something I was reminded of all the time when I was little. Like, you cried for 6 months. Like, well, sure, there's a reason behind it. So I think that like I'm a sensitive person has been thrown to me from almost inception, that I was colicky and I needed this, and you always needed love and you needed that. It's like, well, I think everyone could deserve a hug, or I love you, for sure. So I think when we look further back, it started from like stress in the womb of like moving, being on her own, being resentful, didn't want to leave her hometown, didn't want this, and then out I come and I cry for 6 months.
And remember, in the womb, you're taking on all of her feelings. You're crying You're taking on all of her distress for those first 6 months and amplifying them.
Mhm.
That's her crying.
And then my mom choosing not to show any emotion, I think I can see how I would just like be that filter for her or that mirror.
Yeah. Oops, I think we lost you there for a minute. Oh, there you're back.
There you go.
So where can you say what's sitting with you here now as we look at your chart and we do that 33, looking back at the past and pausing and reflecting, if there's an insight, or does something feel closer, or something still feel really foggy?
No, I think it's when I look, because I have the 13 and my unconscious son to meet the 33 right now and
Yes.
somewhere else. Anyway, like I think like rewriting and listening to that story out loud of between you and Polly, saying like what I've chosen to do. So how am I rewriting this story that I am worthy? And these emotions aren't mine to keep, and I get to choose and respond to what emotions are around me. They can flow around and allow those early moments to start shifting to kind of clear the energy for me versus me being in resistance and combating my trigger.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, the resistance is what sticks those that are not yours with you, your resistance to them. Without resistance, or without attachment, in other words, identifying them as if they were yours, either one of those is what's going to keep the turmoil going on. The high perspective that I think you've already expressed it, Ali. If you can see it, as we look at our human design, this is my entire dynamic with human design. It's this amazing graph of our expression in this incarnation. But who I am is the one who has it. And that's the perspective of awareness. Anything I can see, it's what I have. And it can be seen more clearly. It can be dispelled through the awareness increasing of true nature, right? Knowing myself as true nature, expressing through the power of limits that we call our human design. So you've got, I think, this shining the light today, and thank you so much for your cooperation with this process, because it's the road to awakening. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah,
Appreciate
one last thing I want to throw out for you to play with, that maybe do some retreat inquiry with, that story of being colicky for 6 months. The possibility that that you are still colicky, that you are still identifying as colicky. Something's wrong with you. You're still emotional. You're still, are you tracking me? What I'm saying? So
Yeah.
be like, well, maybe that, again, maybe that was response to your mom. Maybe that is not who you are. Maybe this whole story you've told us is not actually who you are.
I
Maybe
love
it's
that.
an identity that you were given and took
And elaborated.
and elaborated. This is
I will
powerful.
definitely sit with that. That like resonates a lot too.
This is powerful shit. I'm just telling you, this is really powerful stuff. Thank you, Ali. And to be continued, right? To be continued. We're doing pieces of this. We keep working it. We keep working our around these knots. We've got these knots that hold us into an identity and into a perception, self-perception, that as we unknot them, we're allowed our lives. It's like getting freed out of pieces of prison we've put ourselves in or taken on in relation to our charts and our distortion field of our charts.
And our experience.
and our experience.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I just want to check in before we go on to see, Ali, are you okay if people have responses? Yeah. Just if there's anything that got touched or anything that wants to be said after looking at Ali's chart and hearing her piece of work. Yeah, Deborah.
This first came up the other day. I mean, I have an open emotional solar plexus as well. I do have one gate, 40, but it's otherwise open, and I have a completely open head, no gate. So I can really, on several levels, really resonate. I also actually, one way which we're completely opposite is I have an open identity center with one gate. But the other two, my heart goes out to because I understand so well, and I also experience, depending upon where I am, I can often experience other people's emotions so intensely, so much as my own, and sometimes not knowing until after the fact, oh yeah. And I also some very different issues with my mother, but at some strong overlap with, really early um, things that have left a long mark. I'm still obviously processing them. So, yeah, I understand.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, Barry.
I just wanted to say thank you, Ally. That was so brave. And I felt a huge shift. Hoping you felt it too. Where I'm similar to you in design is I've got a very active throat. Where I'm also similar to you is like I really feel like I feel and absorb energy of other people. I think they call that being empath. But where I identified the most was that sort of projection from your mother. And earlier in the call, I said I'm on this teeter-totter and I'm exploring a lot of feelings, wanting to reflect and learn on the past and not isolate and wallow in it. And my mom is passing soon, I think, from the looks of things. And we have a relationship that's been tough, and a big part of like what you just described here was like she told me from as long as I can remember, that I was born with a worry line on my forehead and that I worried too much. And she just like projected, a lot onto me. And she was alone in France, pregnant with me. I can only imagine what went on and how she then projected onto me her feelings. And so even though I think I know that on some level, and I've done this work with Pali before too, this has opened up like a whole new level of understanding that I really need right now. So I just want to say thank you for that. That really is helpful to me. And I'm thankful that we just went through that together. Oh, and I have one more question. I don't know that open solar plexus with no gate. So I have an open head, but I have a defined emotional solar plexus. And I know for me, like I'm a projector too, and I'm supposed to be riding that emotional wave. I'm an emotional projector. And I don't always ride it. I get off at the first stop. I don't take the whole ride and have reactions and feelings that if I put to a longer wait and maybe I sleep on them, or I write a note like I did to my sister the other day and didn't send it. Like there's a lot of ways that I'm riding those emotions without acting on them that is protecting me. And I don't know if that's helpful to you at all or not in your circumstances, but I'll share that with you, even though we have different looking solar plexuses.
Thank you, Barry. Anyone else have something that's percolating, wants a voice?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Kelly. Okay, I can't get my phone to it's not working for me, but I'm having, like, thank you, Allie, for sharing. Thank you, Robin and Polly for giving your insights. I too have an open emotional solar plexus. I have one gate activated there, and I feel a strong pull. Like when people are being emotional, I have a strong pull to stop, like to fix it, because it makes me feel unsafe. My mother was very emotional and lots of outbursts, and we had a very tumultuous relationship. But I learned through her death that this was a family trait. Like this was a story that we were passing on. It had gone back generations and generations. And I was taking on the need to fix other people's emotions because I lacked safety in feeling my own emotions. And I have the open head too. So I'm like, you know, overthinking these things. And I think one of the things that really helped me was getting to know my mother, not fixing our relationship and not like forgiving her for all the things, but getting to know her. And just recently pulling up her chart because I don't have her exact birth time, but you know, doing the range of her chart, I would have thought she had a defined emotional solar plexus because she was so intense. The woman, I mean, she exploded all over the place all the time. But what I found is she has a totally open emotional solar plexus. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh, she probably was feeling a lot like me and feeling very unsafe with the intense emotions going on around her. And so gave me a little sympathy for her. But I really found that by looking at, you know, the people that may have helped me develop these stories and these attachments, looking at them with an objective kind of distanced lens, non-emotional lens has helped me a lot. But your story really resonated with me. I'm here for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, oftentimes in families, the black sheep has a totally open emotional solar plexus. The one who's the emotional one in the family has the open emotional solar plexus because they're taking in and amplifying everybody's feelings. It's a trippy thing. I could have sworn one person, you know, yeah, I told her, you know, you're probably, you know, either not that emotional or you're naturally not emotional at the bottom line. Just, oh no, I am always emotional. You know, I was the emotional one in my family, but that's the open emotional solar plexus. Yeah, Allie? Oh no, you're not reaching for your.
No, that was I appreciate the feedback, and I'm happy that this story is supportive to other people's journeys as well. And I just appreciate everyone holding space and helping me get through these times because it means a lot to me. Like my extended soul family.
So I want to invite you to think not about getting through times, but really transforming, using this for your coming home. Polly was talking about the coming home, using this for your coming. This is fuel for your coming home. It's not something to survive. It's actually, I love that Byron Katie thing. It's not done to you, it's done for you. This is all for you. And we are all here cheering you in that journey with yourself. It's like we're almost our own Goliath and what's the other guy's name? David.
That guy.
We're our own David. We're our own David fighting our own Goliath. We, you know, yeah. Roxanne.
Yeah, I am curious with that totally open emotional solar plexus. I just looked at my sister's chart because I can remember my parents saying, oh, she, you know, telling her that she was so emotional, and she's got a totally open emotional solar plexus. So I'm curious. I know that the challenge is to discern what is anyone with that, you know, what is their feel, what are their things and what aren't, and how does one go about that if they have a totally open emotional center?
Assume nothing is yours.
Really?
Assume nothing is yours.
Yeah, the experience of allowing and detachment, which is part of the teaching right now, has to do with that ability. And the fundamental detachment is our awareness of our design without identifying as that being who I am. Who I am is the awareness of it. It is what I have. And so the detachment gives us access. It's like I have a great instrument, right? To express through. Maybe I'm a cellist or whatever. And I have this great, or a violinist, I have this great Stradivarius violin to express through. Oh, but I can put the violin down and pick up something else. It's a bit of detachment. And I think that what we tend to be caught in is we incarnate and totally identify with our design and its reactivity and its the polarity that much of the centers and the gates are experienced as. So to see it and I mean, it's like Christmas morning to see your design as the way that you get to play in this 3D reality and the fun of this, all of this, yeah, so that we have it and we know and we become more and more available for its highest expression. And that's what we're all about in this class, yeah.
I want
Yeah,
to.
Yeah,
ahead,
I just want to, reflect back so I make sure I'm getting this. So what I hear you saying, Polly, is, even with a defined emotional solar plexus, and I know my feelings are they're not my, even as I say that, my feelings, they're not my feelings. If I'm the awareness, they're just feelings that I'm experiencing. So there's no attachment either way. I don't have, because I thought, well, how are they going to discern what are theirs and what aren't theirs? None of them are theirs, whether it's defined or not. Is that correct?
Well, it's correct in a certain sense in that you can have it and you have it more if it's defined, right? You have this capacity. This defined emotional solar plexus gives you the capacity of emotionality, of the feeling aspect. I have an open emotional solar plexus, I'm sure. And I mean, when I was growing up, my mother ran a daycare center for all the Rosie the Riveters during the Second World War. So there were all these 24-hour-a-day daycare center. And we lived in government housing, but I would be there every day. And every day I would see some child that I had a broken heart regarding, and I would take her to my house or him and give them whatever I could find that might make them feel happier. So I was already experiencing that their emotionality, what I thought it was, arising as mine, right? But it took the whole arc of waking up out of identification with being a person, but with the absolute treasure of having this design and the way that it works, and with great appreciation, but with a certain objectivity, I would say. It's like having a great computer, right? These are the programs I have. This is the way these programs operate, right? So there's that little bit of detachment. At the same time, the fun of the total engagement that is offered through the specificity of the design.
If you think about for a second an open emotional, if we're in the ocean and there are waves, you think about a wave comes and the open emotional, just try this on. This is the first time I've thought of it this way. Open emotional solar plexus dives into the wave, right? Drives under the wave, right? The wave goes over it. A defined emotional solar plexus rides the wave, gets bumped around in it, thrown off, rides the wave. They're two different ways of being with the wave. One is, no, they're not part of the wave. They're not engaged with the wave. And one is, here we go.
The waves got you.
The waves got you, right?
Okay. Yeah. So then for someone with the open emotional center, the low side is when they identify with the wave.
That's right.
Is that?
There's a couple of ways that can happen. Identify with it, recycle, stay in the wave, because after the wave, there's a stillness. If they don't, that's the stillness, that still point is like, if you have an emotional wave, that's your authority. If you make a decision at the high side of the wave, at the low side of the wave, you're not letting that still point come in where it's just clear. It's just clear what to do. Right? You're attaching, oh, I like this feeling, I want to have this feeling, I don't like this feeling, I don't want to have you're caught in attachment and aversion on the wave. That's problematic. You need to get, when you're making decisions, to that just clarity space.
That's with the defined.
That's with a defined, yeah.
And my experience with the open, what's it called, ESP? I love that. My experience with that is that there's just not any decision made out of that space. My decisions, I'm sacral defined, and so I have an and so I never get pulled into that the turmoil or the movement of that wave. It's just a different way of expressing, it's a different way of experiencing, and all of them are just fine. They're all good, but the most important thing, and that's the work of human design and awakening, which is to see what it is that I have, how does it operate, and how does it serve me and I serve it, right, in a certain way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Deborah.
So if identifying with the wave and staying with the wave after it passes, potentially, is the defined low side, what's the low side of the open? How would you describe it?
Identifying with the feelings that are bombarding you.
Right.
Believing that they're true, believing that they're about you,
That they're yours.
that they're yours, taking them on, holding on to feelings, not letting them.
Isn't it kind of the same thing, except
No, because the emotional, so where you're defined, you have consistent access to those energies. Someone with emotional definition, let's say it this way, and it may not always be true, but let's just try it on, is more comfortable with emotions. It's kind of the sea they swim in. And they're high emotions or low emotions, but there's always some kind of emotion going on at some level. That's really different from an open emotional solar plexus who is around people, takes on those energies, identifies that as theirs, and is caught in that. Whether that happened when you were 6 years old or present tense. If it's happening present tense, it's tapping into an earlier time. There's a receptor site for that that's keeping that alive.
okay, I think I understand. So with the low side of the defined, you identify with the wave because you're defined. And then
you're an attachment or aversion to the feeling.
with the defined.
Yes.
Okay, and then the low side would be to stay with the wave after it passes.
Well, the low side is to be in attachment or aversion. Wanting the high side is as bad as trying to avoid the low side.
Okay.
You're still identifying yourself as the wave. If you think about, in meditation, we talk about identifying yourself as your thoughts, right? What we're talking about here, identifying yourself as your feelings. Feelings are just feelings. We, in our culture, we make them like we put them on a high level, like, well, I don't love that person, I don't feel it, I don't, we give so much credit to our feelings that have a motivation behind them. We're not looking, this is work I've been doing with Pali, we're not looking at the motivation.
And typically what we call a feeling has been preceded, I nearly would say 100% of the time, by a thought.
Mm, mhm. Mm. So is as an open with someone with emotional open solar plexus, my feelings, but I have feelings, but I must say that I don't, yeah. Hmm.
So we say, and check this out for yourself, always check it out for yourself.
Yeah.
The truth, the lived truth of the open emotional solar plexus, it's like a stillness. It's like I think of it like the ocean that is just, it's not that there's not movement, it's not that, but it's like the stillness that allows the waves, that isn't moved by the waves.
Mhm.
It brings a stability to humanity. If you're with Polly and you're in a trauma, you're gonna feel like there's just some ground here.
I relate to that. I do. I do. Yeah. But sometimes I guess I get caught up in the chop. Top.
But that's not your
No.
long suit. That's not where you belong.
Yeah.
And typically it will be your mind that pulls you into the chop.
Mhm.
Say you're at a funeral, I see this all the time. You're at a funeral and everyone around you is crying and you don't feel sad. You just don't feel sad. You're not having that feeling. Then there's something's wrong with me because I'm not having that feeling. Whereas maybe there's a cultural norm or a story or a something that's activating a feeling of grief, or true grief, but you're bringing a different stability, a different way of being with that circumstance.
Yeah. So when I'm at a funeral, or I would like to say celebration of life,
Okay.
including my own husband's 3 years ago. I feel like the emotions I mean, at any, like at most funerals or most celebrations, I will have tears, but I think my awareness is that they're not so much tears of grief as they are tears of intense feeling, of love, the awareness of the profundity of the love that's present.
I categorize that as above feeling.
Yeah. Okay. That resonates. Okay. Thank you.
So if we go back to Allie and if with an emotional open emotional solar plexus, you've been told that you're responsible for your mom's emotions, and then you go into the world from that conclusion, responsible for everybody's emotions, that becomes a huge job. That is an enormous, exhausting job.
It's experienced as pressure.
It's pressure. And yeah, I don't know, Allie, if that resonates for you, but it's just an enormous, enormous job. Whereas this other place we're talking about is exquisite, actually, that is the potential. So I want to read something here. Allie, do you want to say something before I read this? Or are you good? Okay. I want to read this. I was going to do this earlier, but and the only person here I think that's heard it is Barbara. We talked about this yesterday in class. There's something that Ra wrote about the centers and definition and openness. And I want you to take it really, we don't have time to deeply go into it. This is our first touch of it, but it does relate to awakening and to how we're looking at the chart. And it relates to the topic of these totally open centers that we've been kind of playing with today. And Allie, I really want you to take this and think about it. I'll try putting it in chat if I can figure out where I got it. Okay. So this is Ross speaking. Long ago, somebody said to me, if you could have any design, what would you have? And I said, no activation whatsoever, just a blank chart. No gates, nothing, just pure white everywhere. Because that is being one with everything. And so when you have centers that are fully open, you can see that these are areas where you've gone beyond the corrective process and the learning process, and you're starting a new process. In other words, a wisdom process, a transcendent process. In other words, you're finally getting to your master's degree, your PhD. You're really at another level entirely. So you can see that definition, that process is over. Hang on. Yeah. So you can see that definition, the process is over. But after all, with your definition, okay, so now we're talking about definition, you're working with it all the time, and you've got to work with it correctly. It just means that you don't have to go through a learning process there. You simply have to use it correctly. And when you have centers where there is activation, but there is no definition, so you have hanging gates off an open center, then these are areas where you're carrying from your line of incarnation stuff that is still not yet worked out, still not yet finished in your learning process. And when you get to the entirely open centers, no activation, that's where you're finally free to seek the one or to seek the whole. So what he is saying is where you have totally open centers, that is the doorway to oneness. So Allie, if for a moment you think, well, actually, maybe I'm doing a master's degree here or a PhD here. You know, maybe I'm here up here alone doing this thing by myself, and I'm in this research project. Rather than there's something wrong here. Yeah, there's a smile there. I'm just letting you know that, Polly.
Thank you.
All right. Anything you want to say in relation to that, Polly?
I just would love to invite everybody into the celebration of this work and this trajectory of waking up now, because what we do, not to go back to a simplistic you create your own reality idea, but what we do, who we're being, is responsible for what can happen on what we think of as this planet and this reality. So our work is our contribution to what I call a new heaven and a new earth. A new heaven is our consciousness, and the new earth is the expression and the experience of that shift. And so all of this work is on behalf of the whole and the transformation into, or back to, we might say, although it's not quite accurate, the garden, coming home.
So that just triggered something for me that kind of came up again with your work, Allie, that there's been research, and I'm not good open head here, so please don't ask me to cite my sources. Yara still remembers a dinner table where she was asked to cite her sources when she had a feeling about something. These were my brothers and my debating brothers. So, but I do remember this research where it is much more painful for a child. It's not about not being loved that the pain comes. The pain comes for not having our love received by another. That is the bigger pain. So if we had that pain as a child, feeling like our love wasn't received, we have a conclusion, and we're walking around in the world believing our love isn't going to be received. And we're looking for proof everywhere we go to validate that experience.
That's all we will see is proof that it's not received, because that's the lens we're perceiving through.
So we have someone like you, Allie, with all that gate activation off that identity center, and like, You're here to give love. Hello, that is your job. And you have an early distortion lens that says it's not accepted, it's not received. So I know I'm just keeping piling on stuff for you to go into 33 with. But I think it's worthy for all of us, this one about not trusting that what we have to bring, and this is human design, right? Each one of our charts, we are here to stand in the field of awake awareness and bring what we came here to bring uniquely.
The thing, the most, let's see, dramatic are the most important piece to know is that if we don't do it here on our own behalf first, it can't ever go. I think there's a quote in the New Testament where Jesus says, as ye do it unto the least of these, and for all of us in our self recrimination, our self rejection, we are the least. So that's why when I talk about being on your own behalf, the work, the love has to be received here first, and then it will naturally be expressed and bless the larger reality. But we can't skip over ourselves, right? So the work that you're doing up close and personal to come home to yourself, your own value, your true nature is on behalf of the whole, and it's done in this close in, very personal way.
So what you're saying, if I have this right, and I think I work this issue, is that if we want to give what we're here to bring to the world, this is what you're telling me with the program, right? I
Right.
want to bring this, I want
Right.
to bring this. And you're saying to me, you have to bring it to yourself
Right,
first.
that's right.
We have to love ourselves. The love we want to give, we have to give to ourselves
Yeah.
first. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. The awakening for this body mind unit had to do with having the love and the attention and the everything, the gift, go out to a brother, a son and a sister, my youngest son and my sister. And but I had skipped over this, and so I can remember in different decades in my long life when I would realize that my instinct was, if they can get it, I'll be fine, right? But I hadn't gotten it. So I hadn't come into what I call true north of being on my own behalf. And from this place, it's kind of like, you know, the oxygen mask in the airplane. You put yours on first before you have the child or the elderly or whatever. So it's like it has to happen here. And when it happens here, you will not have to figure out how far it to go out. You will not have to figure out how to give it, because your expression, your knowing of true nature, the one I am, the clarity here, will be an absolute easy and already in place. The world that you now create out of your own self-regard, out of your own self-acceptance, will arise to be received, to receive your gift. It's quite, this reality is quite miraculous, really.
So what you just said, I want to say it the way that I heard it from Byron Katie that has really
Okay.
stuck with me. Like,
Perfect.
the external comes to meet the internal.
Mhm.
So whatever we're doing here,
Mhm.
the external is going to show up that way. If
That's
we're
right.
self-hating, we're going to get
Yeah.
self-hate or
Yeah.
rejection.
Yeah.
If we're self-loving, we're going to be experiencing, people are going to be loving towards us.
Yeah, and that's my analogy for that is the lens through which we perceive reality.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, now that we cleared that all up.
It's all good news.
Let's we have 6 minutes. Let's do just a round where everybody gets a voice again. Maybe I'll set the timer and we'll just do 30 seconds each. I think we can do that in the time we've got here. Just what's here now? A lot has happened. Yeah, a lot has happened here, and if you're okay with it, I'll just call on people just so we stay on time with each other. And Jean-Vivi, we haven't heard from you. You willing to go first?
Sure. I really got a better understanding of riding the wave. I have a defined solar plexus, and so, and also I love that you talk about going to a funeral and not feeling anything, and I shame myself so much for that. So that was a long time ago, and so thank you for talking about it and bringing.
Change this alarm to beep. Okay, Karina.
Pretty much identical to Jean-Vivier is just really deepening my understanding of the difference between having a defined, which I have, solar plexus, and undefined one. Rather than assuming we all are the same, this is so helpful to understand why others, receive us or react differently than I do. So yeah, really useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Barry, I'm going through a projector. I'm just following along and I'm getting all these projectors. Barry.
My sister's grateful as the only person in my family with an open solar plexus that I came to this class today.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Linda.
I just really loving this like deeper dive into the emotional solar plexus, and the analogy of the waves was really fun. Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Polly.
Thank you, Linda. Kelly Ruby.
I am trying to digest everything, and it is parallel to the experience that I'm having trying to find this house. I am driving around on all the same roads and turning myself around and looking at the map, and I feel it's the same way with having an open emotional solar plexus and trying to figure out my emotions versus other people's emotions. It's a map that I'm not reading very well. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly Ruby. Deborah.
Well, I would say that I feel like I've kind of drifted down back into the ocean a bit. Then, yeah, so I just feel much more at peace than when we started. That anxiety is, it's yeah, it's just up there. So.
Thank you, Deborah. Kelly B.
I love talking about the emotional solar plexus and hearing everybody's view. Because of conditioning, that's like the biggest thing for me is just being told not to have the emotions, being called a crybaby myself, my sister being called a crybaby. We both have open solar plexus. So it's just so interesting and trying to figure out what's conditioning and what's not. So it's always a contemplation of mine. Thanks.
Thank you, Kelly. Roxanne.
Yeah, I'm excited by how the topic turned out today. And, even if for now it just helps me to understand my sister better and relate to her, and perhaps I can share with her, because she's really open, to hearing about human design, and she pulled up her chart and everything. So maybe we can have a discussion. I don't know how much it'll help her, but yeah, I can have more compassion for her and yeah, how
Great.
she responds to life.
Thank you, Roxanne. Hilda.
Thank you, Ellie, for sharing your story. I could relate to that. Like I said before, I was also triggered by something yesterday, and yeah, with a defined emotional solar emotional solar plexus, I could really, go into the wave, and I feel now I'm in a still point now. It's calmed down. So thank you all.
Thank you, Hilda. Barbara.
Thank you. I have such a deep gratitude for being a witness to the 6-step process with you, Ali. Thank you. Lots of resonance with what came up during that and the conversations that have been shared. Yeah, the solar plexus is an amazing energy center, and it's always great to dive a little deeper. So thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Barbara. Yarrow.
Yeah, this has been just an incredible conversation. I have appreciated Ali, everyone really. I have a defined emotional solar plexus, and I feel how attached I have been to being this feeling person, and I'm very special because I can really have big waves, and it's like the identification is like shifting to I can enjoy the movement.
Right.
Yeah, love that all. Thank you.
Thank you, Yarrow. Ali.
I'm deeply grateful for this community and the support, and happy that I could share my story in hopes that it helps everyone else in their awakening journey. How I experience my ahas, it's almost like these fireworks, and then I watch it all come down as I can easily put like different situations in. So from each moment, I feel like there's like almost like these brush and waves of like deconditioning that are happening in my energy right now. So I'm feeling a little tired, but my sinuses are clearing up.
Thank you, Ali. Pali, you want to take 30 seconds?
No, I'm good. I just feel like the movement today was one of it's like breathing, it's like in and out, and both the exhale and the inhale are equally valuable. And I can feel that in this group, and it's really deeply satisfying to me. So I appreciate everybody's willingness mostly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Polly. And for me, I just, first of all, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate that we have this space to do this dive together. And personally, I'm really hot. The humidity has come from the rain, and I'm just like, I'm wearing pants and I'm just sweating like crazy. But I think it's all part of it. Like something wants out, some toxicity wants out of my system, the next level of toxicity. And I want to welcome it rather than resist it.
Yeah.
All right, my dears. Thank you so much. Really, just hands on our hearts, appreciating ourselves, commitment to coming home, just again and again to use what's in front of us, whatever turmoil, whatever waves, whatever's hitting us, to use it for ourselves. All right, big love. And Barbara's doing, no, you did oils yesterday. Cindy's got a group Sunday night. If you want support, please go there. And love you all so much.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.